Welcome, everyone, to the Captive Audience. I'm Kevin Hoare, and I haven't got to do a live show in a while. Had one a few weeks back, and it was a pretty good one, but just been super busy with campaign stuff and the campaign season and traveling relative to that. Just thought I'd do a quick show tonight just to kind of run through the headlines. So we're right in the middle of the primary, which is everybody should have their ballots or should have them shortly. It's the 5th of May today, 2026, and Election Day, the deadline is May 19th at 8 p.m. Um, there's obviously a lot of different laws here in Oregon that allow some of these ballots to just keep rolling in for days afterwards, after Election Day, but I don't recommend anybody does that. I think it's a very good idea if you drop it off at a ballot drop off box, no matter when you complete the ballot. If you decide to mail it because you have no other choice, then so be it. But I would actually suggest that you um, put it in a ballot drop off box somewhere. It doesn't have to go to county elections, but I think just about anywhere is better than leaving it in the postal system. I don't even know if I've ever mailed a ballot, actually. I don't think so, but I guess we'll find out. How it works, and people can make their own decisions going forward. Now, there is some election related news that I think, let me see if I can find it here, because um, let's see, Judicial Watch, they've they filed a lawsuit that as of the 4th, so yesterday, a lawsuit for cleaning up 800,000 names from the Oregon voter rolls. And you can kind of check out their report about this, because it's supposed to involve getting rid of 800,000 ineligible voters. But knowing Oregon, they probably will take hundreds of thousands of eligible Republicans off the voter rolls, and we'll end up with people who are legitimately voting but unable to vote. Meanwhile, there will be probably an inordinate number of people who don't even have a valid reason to vote in the United States getting on the rolls because they refuse to prove what they're doing. But this is an opportunity to learn a little bit about what's actually happening with our voter rolls. So I recommend you take a look see at that report. Meanwhile, there's a lot of important stuff on the ballot. I'll start with probably one of the most important things that's happening on the ballot statewide, and that is the Oregon governor's race. On the Democrat side, it's a snoozer, it's a Kotek canonization, but she is not well liked statewide, and one of the least popular governors in the United States. And she is facing a cadre of very credible Republican challengers who are competing for the nomination on the Republican side. And as of now, the top four, at least according to the organizers of the forums and debates that have been taking place, and based on funds raised and or um, uh, polling results, are Chris Dudley, Christine Drazan, Ed Deal, and Danielle Bethel. Chris Dudley was a candidate in 2010. He was a former Portland Trailblazer. He was a 7-foot center who wasn't good at shooting free throws, but as he likes to emphasize, he was good at rebounds. And he played for, I think, about a decade or something. And then after he retired, did stuff on the private end of things, and then decided to run for governor in 2010. Came very close, lost by about 27,000 votes, but a different era in terms of Oregon politics. He lost to John Kitzhaber, who went on to serve a third term and then get elected to a fourth term, only to resign about a month into that term due to a corruption and cover-up scandal that a whistleblower revealed. And so he was replaced by the Secretary of State at the time, whose name should be very familiar to you, which is Kate Brown. Kate Brown ascended to the position and then subsequently was elected in 2016 to fill out the rest of that term, 2018 to a full 4-year term, and then in 2022, because she was term limited out after all the damage she did to the state, especially during COVID, Tina Kotek, the Speaker of the House of the Oregon House for 10 years, covering the entire time period that Kate Brown was in the governor's mansion, plus a couple of years of John Kitzhaber, then ran for governor and won by 2% over Christine Drazan. It was a three-way race in 2022, and Betsy Johnson was the third-party candidate who I think got less than 9% of the vote, spent $6 million, spent $1 million just to get on the ballot as a unaffiliated candidate. Anyway, she's not running this time, but Chris Dudley's running. Christine Drazan, who was the other, who's the nominee in 2022, is running again. And Ed Deal, a state representative who led the gas tax petition signature drive to refer that to the ballot. And that, I will talk about in a minute, is on the May ballot, even though it should have been on the November ballot. But it's on the May ballot because Tina Kotek and the Democrats are terrified of having their names next to a very unpopular gas tax, which is almost certainly going to be defeated here in May, but it will only be defeated if you vote. And it'll be defeated because people have had it with the government, particularly the Democrats that have been running it for 40 years, not listening to them, and ramrodding these things through and making everything more expensive in this state. The other candidate running is Danielle Bethel. She's a Marion County commissioner. By the way, Christine Drazan is a state senator, a Republican state senator, and she was the minority leader of the Republicans in the House for a couple of different terms leading up to her last run for governor. And then she came back in 2024 and was elected in 2024 to the House and then appointed to the Senate. She's state senator regardless of what happens in this nomination competition. And Ed Deal, as I mentioned, has led this backlash, a movement, a grassroots movement against the taxes. So anyway, that's kind of the lay of the land. They had a debate the other day. I have not gotten to watch it. I watched the one that took place a couple weeks earlier that was conducted by the Oregon Republican Party. It was more of a forum. It wasn't really a debate. There wasn't any back and forth between the candidates. And it stayed mostly positive, and it was really hard to see the difference between the candidates other than physically and, name ID. But anyway, that it says here that mailed-in ballots will count if they are postmarked by Election Day, even if they arrive later than Election Day. But some folks are saying that if you mail them in a place that does not postmark them locally, like everything kind of goes through the Portland processing center, then those ballots may not be postmarked Election Day, even though they were mailed Election Day. So that's something to keep in mind. According to a review of the debate that took place by Coin TV, which, factor in whatever you might consider to be a bias in that one. They almost none of them have ever favored or offered favorable coverage to a Republican candidate for governor at any point in time. But they said following the debate, some political analysts that they put on the TV said none of the top Republican candidates broke away from the pack, meaning the next 2 weeks before the primary election are critical. They deemed, based on polling and other evidence, anecdotal, I guess, that State Senator Christine Drazan is the front runner. And they said that she's likely to stay the course and win.
But there is a strong challenge from State Representative Ed Deal, who again is known because of Measure 120, which he helped get the signatures for, and Chris Dudley because of his Trailblazers experience. But they both need a late surge and are looking for a defining message or a moment to close the gap. And of course, that can also take a lot of money. Drazen and Dudley are the ones with the most money, and they're spending a lot of money on TV. Ed Deal is kind of out there more on digital and social media and grassroots campaigning. You know, to a great extent, it's no one's actually running. No one's really going negative in this campaign, at least not at this point. And if they do, you'll know that actually the reality of what's happening with the vote is closer than what the polling or the analysts are saying. So just watch for that. That's a good clue. Anyway, only Republicans can nominate Republicans. Democrats are stuck nominating Democrats, and non-affiliated or voters who are not a member of any party will only see the gas tax and some nonpartisan local races on their ballot. There is a Bureau of Labor and Industry race, and I'm supporting Chris Lynch because the incumbent endorsed Val Hoyle, who was described by the Oregon Secretary of State's audit as the person who, when she headed BOLI up until the end of 2022, is responsible for putting that agency in a state of crisis. And that's just the beginning, because from there, it obviously got worse with the LaModa scandal, taking money, giving illegal federal grants to people. But Christine Stevenson was endorsed by Val Hoyle. And even though she had to deal with the mess left by Val Hoyle, she continues to kind of toe the line and support the person who delivered her the mess. So I think the only real consequences is to take Chris Lynch, who is a non-affiliated voter, not a Democrat or Republican, running against Democrat Christina Stevenson. Chris is somebody who worked at BOLI up until Val Hoyle came into control there and said that the place is now a total mess. And so, actually both Val Hoyle and Christina Stevenson should pay the price for that. If they don't, then you know what? The voters are getting what they, I hate to say, probably deserve in a way. Anyway, looks like, I hope my computer's not crashing here. I am having a problem viewing some of the other news items, but I did want to talk about Measure 120. So that's the gas tax, and it's a massive section on your ballot. Like if you look at your ballot, I'll just show it to you. The massive section on the ballot, it's like that much. You see that thing in the middle there? Let's see if I can get it. That column right here. It's huge. And most people won't read it, but when they read the part that says what does it do, it raises your taxes. Hopefully, some people will get wise and realize that they don't want their taxes raised, and therefore vote to have it expunged and defeated, which means you have to vote no, actually, in order to get that to be the result. So I want to make sure that you understand that in order to get rid of the gas tax that we got signatures to put on the ballot, you will have to vote no to get rid of it. Anyway, sometimes it can be confusing whether you're supposed to vote yes or no in order to deliver the result that you want. And I just want to make it very clear to everyone that the answer is no. All right. Let me go ahead and go on to some of these other news stories here. So the gas tax, as I mentioned, is on the ballot. And you get to have a say after the state legislature and the governor ignored you.
But here's a really clever thing, an argument that was in the voter pamphlet put in by the Taxpayer Association of Oregon urging a no vote. They did a poem, and here's the poem, which is a statement in opposition to the gas tax and urging a no vote. There once was a lady named Kotek who greatly taxed my paycheck. She raised my gas taxes and DM fees, brought me finally to my knees. My friends said they can't take it anymore, so they moved to Nevada, Texas, and Idaho. I joined, but I'm simply out of luck, all out of luck, because I can't afford gas for my U-Haul truck. And so that's the nifty little poem that you can share with your friends. I'm putting a link here so you can go check that out. It's also in your voters pamphlet, so go have a look. But also do make sure other people know that this is their opportunity to say no to a governor and a state legislature who doesn't listen to anybody and frankly did everything they could to screw around and deceive the voters who demanded an opportunity to second guess their decision. So let me go ahead and I'm going to save that little link there. There is something else that's affecting state budgets, and apparently it's wildfires, which, as we know, Democrat policies for decades have caused our forest management practices to leave so much fuel load on the floor of dead trees and underbrush and trees too crowded too close together that our wildfires actually turn into super wildfires and sterilize the soil, costing enormous sums of money. And here's what you need to know. The wildfires in 2024 burned more than 1.9 million acres. By the time they finally died down in October of that year, the state spent more than $350 million fighting them. They had only allocated $10 million to fight wildfires. That's your state legislature and governor at work. They have placed a tax on nicotine pouches in order to help provide more money for these efforts. And but typically the state blows through the amount of money that they have in order to fight the fires. And the state is actually somewhat effective at fighting the fires. It's the federal government and the Forest Service and BLM that are just completely disastrous. I won't even go into that today. However, there are changes at the federal level that are starting to alter those policies. However, the state itself just doesn't have enough money and has not allocated enough money to fight the wildfires. We could be harvesting all of that timber that is excessive, and even some of the fuel load on the ground, the small diameter trees, and turning that into money to fund schools, law enforcement, and public services. We could also use it, of course, to pay for the effort to maintain the forest so they don't burn quite as easily, which is what forest management practices do. But we have a situation where the Democrats actually think, and the policies are all skewed towards wilding, which is to keep the forest wild and unmaintained, and they just let them burn. And that has led to these enormous sums of money, which are undermining the financial stability of the state government. This is something that I hope gains more attention this election cycle, because as Democrats spend all their time talking about how President Trump is impacting the state, really, these are the policies that are impacting the state. The Democrats have put them in place. And if I were them, I would talk about something else than the stuff I'm responsible for which they are richly deserving severe election defeats for. And this is only one of many policies. So they don't listen. They pass the gas tax. They don't deliver. They underfund priorities that people really have. And then, and of course,
they've delivered an underperforming, somewhat failed economy, actually, by all measures. And so right now, the Oregon jobs reports are showing a continued relative weakness in Oregon's economy, while the rest of the country is actually rebounding and doing nicely. Um, and so, uh, there have been increases in job postings over the last year. This tends to lend itself to an increase in unemployment. Uh, but sometimes you see a decline in job postings because businesses are starting to give up on hiring people because they can't afford it. So Oregon's unemployment rate continues to exceed the national average. It's 5.2%, which is nearly a full percentage point higher than the national rate. It jives with the fact that a lot of people have been leaving Oregon because they don't think it's actually a healthy and vibrant economy. And there are sectors that are doing well. Healthcare and other private sector activity is doing well. There's growth in that area. There's a lot of large companies, though, that are scaling back, and we've been hearing about those in the news headlines. What are the Democrats who are running the state of Oregon declaring an emergency and trying to address the economic situation? And the answer is no. They're not doing anything about it, and that's because they're the cause of it. But they've spent very little time paying attention to it. They're doing some election year window dressing, some antics, and you can expect that to continue almost indefinitely. But it is having an effect. And here's something that you need to know. Now, this is a national survey, but you can expect that given the state of Oregon's economy, it could easily be much worse. Is a poll that said that 8 in 10 young adults rate economic conditions in the U.S. either bad or terrible. They said 55% said it was bad, 29% said it was terrible. Now, of course, these are a lot of people with some very expensive college loans to pay, and they can't afford homes because those are priced out of reach of people unless they have significant income. In March, the inflation has increased to 3.3%. Gasoline's been up, as we know, and I think that's temporary because of the Iran conflict. However, that I think is going to reverse and come right back down in about a month. However, the things that have been affecting people before the Iran conflict are going to continue to affect them after the Iran conflict. And 2026 may have a lot to do with what can be done about the, what can be done about the state of the economy and quickly. So anyway, young people aren't happy with this. They weren't convinced under Biden that he was doing enough. They're still kind of unhappy and they don't know if it's being addressed and they want to see it addressed. Let's see. In other news, and I think, oh, wait a second. Here's a nice commentary, by the way, about Measure 120 that I forgot to mention. The Oregonian editorial board has come out and officially opposed Measure 120, so they're urging a no vote. And they said, drive a stake through the heart of this cursed transportation package. And they go in to explain it in some detail. The impact on a family of four of this package is $400 a year, which is quite significant to a working family, especially ones that might have been struggling already. So this is something that you can share with folks. I just posted it. It's an excellent article kind of reviewing what's happening. But it's also, a lot of people haven't been told that this is going to occur. And then they find out with shock and amazement what happens when they show up to do their registration for the car and they find out just how expensive it really is. Let's see here.
So there was a car packed with explosives that someone drove to the Loma Athletic Club to bomb it in recent days. And the man that authorities suspect drove the car had a year-long fixation with the exclusive club and terrorized its members. A guy named Bruce Whitman, 49, died in the fiery wreck, according to, and that was on Saturday that he did that. According to law enforcement, he previously worked at the club as a bartender. They described a pattern of violent threats and menacing conduct going back all the way to 2021. He had 2 red flag orders against him in 2022 and earlier this year, indicating that he had behavioral health problems. And then he had been fired from the MAC in 2022 and consistently believed that the people at the MAC were conspiring against him. So it sounds like he might have been kind of paranoid conspiracist or nuts. But we'll see. The evidence will have to come out. But this had been going on for years. It's fortunate that he didn't actually kill anyone, but he did try to blow up the place. What's really fascinating about that, hi Pam, good to see you. What's fascinating about that is that by all measures, this really does sound like a terrorist attack. Somebody decided to inflict terror with a car bomb. But the city of Portland, according to Lars Larson, refuses to call it a terrorist attack. As usual, they're watering it down and saying it's a behavioral health issue. And it, when you dig into it, you got the Weeping Willow police chief Bob Day, who could only have gotten a job with a bunch of crazy leftists on the Portland City Council being his guarantors. So this is an isolated event and not related to domestic terrorism. So apparently you can be a terrorist, a lone wolf terrorist, but because you aren't working with anybody, then it's not terrorism. Anyway, and then Keith Wilson said a note of sadness. He offered a note of sadness for the death of the bomber. Really. So, this is a guy that had already had all these legal sanctions against him, and they frankly did nothing about it. So, fast forward now to what the DA said, the district attorney, and he said, we actually need more than just the power to seize weapons. He's saying that we need to be able to get people like this who are mentally unbalanced and into long-term treatment and get them off the streets where they can do things like apparently not mount a terrorist attack with a non-terroristic car bomb. And even though he gave all the signs and signals that he was trying to do something like this, I can guarantee if this guy had done this to, I don't know, the Democrat Party headquarters or the state capitol, Democrats would be calling this a terror attack. I just guarantee it. But he said they need more. They need to be able to take somebody like this and not just take away their firearms, but frankly, commit them into a mental facility. But Oregon doesn't allow that. So here's what the consequence really can be. Anyway, that's kind of the latest on those stories. I did want to share with you that Oregon is actually off arguing that the feds inflamed the protest that took place, the ICE protest that took place. And they're saying that the feds were actually making it worse. Apparently, none of the Democrats who were encouraging the protests to come out and, quote, resist and stand up to the fascist with his evil shock troops called ICE, all those Democrats that were saying that, like Val Hoyle and many others, they apparently bear no responsibility for inflaming the situation. None at all. But they blame the feds for simply existing and trying to protect themselves and their facilities as the ones who are inflaming the situation. So anyway, I do hope you take a chance. There's some photos. Here's a longer article talking about it, and you can kind of read what it says. But this is it's a historic citation, but it continues. The controversy continues. Apparently, Democrats and some others hate data centers because they consume water, power, and land. They love using all of the tools that rely on data centers. And at one time, they used to offer them special deals to come in as businesses. But now they've decided that even though Democrats have caused our entire power grid to weaken by getting rid of reliable and inexpensive forms of energy like natural gas, banning nuclear power, and refusing to let it become part of our grid, and then replacing it with solar and wind, now they are blaming the data centers for taking too much of our power grid reserves. And since they refuse to make our power grid stable and able to support business expansion, it looks like many big tech companies may find themselves being sent out of Oregon, or just forced out, which would be where they could join all the other businesses that are leaving or scaling back. Just thought I'd put that on your radar because that's what the Democrats are up to right now. Here's another very interesting thing. University of Oregon to add an ICE presence alert to their existing emergency notification system on the campus. So apparently, if ICE is somewhere on the campus, they're going to issue alerts so that they must have quite a quantity of illegal immigrant students there. I don't know. They've never actually disclosed if and how many they have. And so we have no idea, but they've decided that they need to offer these alerts to everybody so they can help somebody who's wanted by federal law enforcement evade law enforcement, which is fascinating. And I guess we'll find out if one day, if there's somebody that the feds are seeking, that that the University of Oregon might be trying to help warn, so they can avoid any consequences for their actions. But I haven't had a chance to look into this yet, but there's kind of a battle going on in House District 32, which is held currently by former Republican turned Democrat State Representative Cyrus Javadi, claiming that he has been defamed by the Republican candidate who seeks to replace him, Christian Honnell. And so there's a lot here. I haven't really had a chance to review it, but there's a lot of criticism in the voter pamphlet statement. And, this is a seat that used to be Democrat for a couple of decades, got won by a Republican, and then eventually Cyrus Javadi got in there pretending to be a Republican, and then changed his positions 180 degrees from what he told voters in 2024, and then voted for the gas tax increase. And now he's apparently saying that he is being defamed. So I guess we're going to find out if political free speech still exists in Oregon, and if somebody who tells voters giant whoppers like that and lies to get into office is actually telling the truth, and therefore can sue people for calling him on not telling the truth. We'll find out. This is an interesting story. Monique Despain is running for Congress in the 4th Congressional District. She is the presumptive nominee. She was the nominee in 2024 and lost narrowly to incumbent Congresswoman Val Hoyle, which I've mentioned several times during this show. She had an article that was covering her that turns out the reporter made several incorrect statements, ones that were to the benefit of Val Hoyle, who was not interviewed for the article, though Despain was, and made no mention of something called whatsvalhiding.com, which was the subject of the interview, but he made no mention of it in his story. So a correction was issued. This is meant to be a review of the entire race as it stands on the Republican side, plus the statements that retired Air Force Colonel Despain has made about and backed up with news stories about Congresswoman Val Hoyle. Who knows? Maybe Congresswoman Val Hoyle will like to see if she can challenge people on the things that have been claimed by a wide variety of news outlets. Anyway, this news article looks like it was intended as a parting shot because apparently the reporter has actually been laid off from this outlet. And it's hard to know exactly what it might have to do with the quality of reporting, but the story was updated on May 1st after some of these inaccuracies were brought to the attention of the News Review, which operates out of Roseburg. Anyway, I'm posting this article for you. Go ahead and read it and see what you think, and then share it with others. And just know that when reporting is done like this, it's frequently no accident whatsoever. And so we have to be on guard and on the lookout and patrol the media, which is what we do here on the Captive Audience. We've been doing it since May 12th, 2020. And that's my summary for tonight. I hope you enjoyed tonight's show. I appreciate that you took the opportunity to listen and to watch, and please share the show with everyone you can. Again, I'm Kevin Hoare, and I look forward to joining you again here in the not too distant future with another live show. Appreciate your patience during election season. Make sure you get your ballots in, and make sure that you also vote no on the gas tax and support a candidate for governor. Chris Lynch for Boley is my supported candidate. And then look at the rest of the candidates on your ballot. Monique Despain for Congress. And then there's a race in the 5th district. And I think that's one that you got to watch. I don't have any information about that here today, other than that there's 2 Republican candidates, Patty Adair and Jonathan Lockwood. But I think, scrutinize the candidates, make a decision, make sure you get your ballot in May 19th. Anyway, thanks for joining me. Have a great night, and I'll see you on the next episode of The Captive Audience. Good night.